and welcome back to my channel where we are all crime all black all the time.
Mr. Davis, Mr. Edwards turns, leaves, gets in his truck, drives away.
And the defense.
But the greatest atrocity of all happened some 2,000 years ago out on a hill called Calvary, because the man spoke the truth. Jesus Christ, they crucified him because of truth. People don't like truth.
In his opening statement, William Edwards claimed the state is targeting him because of discussions he had regarding city and county officials during his time as a Facebook Live and radio host. He also claimed one witness testifying for the state will be lying.
Person that has a reason to lie. The evidence was shown throughout this course of this case. Why should lie?
Here's the witness Edwards is referring to, his ex-girlfriend, Shadow Robinson. She testified that Edwards arrived to her home unannounced the day of the crime. She told Robert Davis he was there and then returned to her bedroom. Soon after that, she heard gunshots.
Who was the only person with a gun after the shooting that you heard?
William.
And what did you hear him say as he stood over the body of Robert Davis?
One of the crime scene investigators, Robert Watts, also took the stand. He retrieved items from the crime scene, Edwards' home, and the truck he was driving.
The live rounds were the same size and brand as the casings I found on scene at Montana Drive. So they're the same brand and same size.
The jury heard 4 other witnesses Tuesday, including the medical examiner, who says Davis was shot 9 times. Court resumes Wednesday morning. In Jackson, Verlicia Gavin, 3 on your side.
The state rested its case Wednesday after calling 2 witnesses, lead investigator of the case, Greg Jones, and another investigator with Madison County, John Chalk. Jones spoke about receiving search warrants for Edwards' phone records, apartment, and Facebook account. Edwards' phone pinged multiple times traveling to and from Clinton and near the scene of the crime. Surveillance video was also shown in court, which showed the truck that witnesses say Edwards was driving as it passed Fun Time Skate Land 2 minutes after the 911 call was made. Fun Time is less than a mile from the crime scene. Edwards argued there's no proof he had his cell phone or if he was in the truck, specifically due to what witnesses said Polo was wearing during the alleged crime.
So the description of clothing that Ms. Robinson said he had on were white sweatpants and dark colored shirt, which is the same clothing he was arrested in.
Can you look up there at that truck and tell me what it looks like that person has on that drive?
So that's indefinite.
Nobody can detect that that's a person with a white shirt.
Based on this video, it's hard to be definite that that's a person with a white shirt on.
Well, what do you think it is?
Videos also showed Edwards leaving his home with a black object in his hand. Investigator Jones testified that the object was a gun.
In your lay opinion,
It appears to be a gun.
Another big development was what police found on Edwards' Facebook account the day of the murder, which said, "God, I don't need you to forgive me for nothing I do. Save that for the ones I'm going to send to you."
Former social media personality William Polo Edwards was found guilty of first-degree murder of Robert Davis. He was also found guilty of being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm. Now, after sitting through 2 trials, Davis's family says justice has finally been served. After 3 days of testimony and less than 2 hours of deliberation,
We, the jury, find the defendant, William Irvin Edwards, guilty of first-degree murder.
William Edwards is convicted for killing 45-year-old Robert Davis in May of 2022.
Still very emotional. We just heard the verdict, and we are elated.
This isn't the first time this case faces a jury. The first trial was declared a mistrial after jurors couldn't reach a verdict. The victim's sister, Jo Weaver, says this time around, the decision was clear.
I feel like this time that the evidence was clean, it was condensed, it was concise, and I feel that it was presented in a way that the jury could understand and come to the verdict, and they got it right this time.
Before going into deliberations Thursday evening, the jury heard from both sides one last time. Edwards standing firm on what he's claimed since the beginning. The state's argument is based on the testimony of Shadow Robinson. Robinson testified that she heard gunshots and then saw Edwards standing over Davis's body with the gun. Edwards called Robinson a liar several times throughout the trial and told the jury his defense is based on truth.
He was the truth, the way, and the life, and they still crucified him. People hate the truth. Truth doesn't have to object. It just waits its turn. Remember I told you in my earlier open arguments that Truth is like love, it's patient, it's kind, it's generous.
The state coming behind him, arguing that the facts say otherwise.
Because when you don't have nothing, that's all you can do. You can just preach. When you don't have the facts, you just got.
We will go ahead and do that now.
Time for a neighborly tip from Jackson Water. Is it okay to pour fats, oils, and greases down the drain if I run?
Polo is about to get, here it is. Why is that not showing? There we go. Goodness gracious. I got all these messages are going through real quick. Yeah, the views are up today. Here we go. Trina B is saying life in prison with no possibility of parole. That is certainly a possibility. We will definitely find that out in just a few minutes. Again, we are waiting for the court to come up. Oh, goodness gracious. So we have a little bit of a technical difficulties right now with our cameras. So even if we are not able to get in to the courtroom because of our technical difficulties, I will be here to let you know what the verdict is, what the sentencing will be. Before we do that, though, let's go ahead, for those who may be just now joining us, let's go ahead and get a recap again of the 3-day trial.
Court began with opening statements from both the state.
Mr. Davis is on the floor. Mr. Edwards is standing over him with a gun, blood everywhere. Mr. Davis, Mr. Edwards turns, leaves, gets in his truck, drives away.
And the defense.
But the greatest atrocity of all happened some 2,000 years ago out on a hill called Calvary, because a man spoke the truth. Jesus Christ, they crucified him because of truth. People don't like truth.
In his opening statement, William Edwards claimed the state is targeting him because of discussions he had regarding city and county officials during his time as a Facebook Live and radio host. He also claimed one witness testifying for the state will be lying.
Person that has a reason to lie. The evidence was shown throughout this course of this case. Why should lie?
Here's the witness Edwards is referring to, his ex-girlfriend, Shadow Robinson. She testified that Edwards arrived to her home unannounced the day of the crime. She told Robert Davis he was there and then returned to her bedroom. Soon after that, she heard gunshots.
Who was the only person with a gun after the shooting that you heard?
William Edwards.
And what did you hear him say as he stood over the body of Robert Davis?
One of the crime scene investigators, Robert Watts, also took the stand. He retrieved items from the crime scene, Edwards' home, and the truck he was driving.
The live rounds were the same size and brand as the casings I found on scene at Montana Drive. So they're the same brand and same size.
The jury heard 4 other witnesses Tuesday, including the medical examiner, who says Davis was shot 9 times. Court resumes Wednesday morning. In Jackson, Verlicia Gavin, 3 on your side.
The state rested its case Wednesday after calling 2 witnesses, lead investigator of the case, Greg Jones, and another investigator with Madison County, John Chalk. Jones spoke about receiving search warrants for Edwards' phone records, apartment, and Facebook account. Edwards' phone pinged multiple times traveling to and from Clinton and near the scene of the crime. Surveillance video was also shown in court, which showed the truck that witnesses say Edwards was driving as it passed Fun Time Skate Land 2 minutes after the 911 call was made. Fun Time is less than a mile from the crime scene. Edwards argued that.
All right, guys, I'm cutting those recaps short because we are now in the courtroom, and we're going to go straight into there for you so that we can find out what the sentencing is of William Polo Edwards.
All right, you all may be seated. All right. The first matter on the docket this afternoon, State of Mississippi versus William Aaron Edwards, 2549. Good afternoon, Mr. Edwards, Mr. Long, how are you? So we're here this afternoon for sentencing. Before we always let the defendant have the last say or the last word. So if you don't mind, Mr. Edwards, I want to let you have a seat, and if there are any persons who want to speak on behalf of the state first, and then any persons who want to hear you, and then you can have the last word. Thank you. Mr. McCullough. Does the state have any person or persons who want to make a big impact?
This name is Weaver, and she just texted me, she says she walked up.
She don't know there she is. You all on the front, keep to my left, you slide all the way down and allow them to have a seat on that. Yes, we appreciate it. Ms. Weaver. Good afternoon. We're just leaving. I know that you didn't expect to walk in and have to immediately address the court. But we have started the proceeding, and I understand you want to make a statement on behalf of your brother.
Yes.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jo Weaver. I am Bobby's older sister. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to Your Honor and everyone on behalf of my family. I have a very large family. This has been a very, it's been a horrible experience from May 1st. I wanted to basically, everything that I want to say, of course, time would not allow, we would be here all year. But I basically wanted to let Your Honor know the impact that Bobby's loss has been on our family and our community at large. Bobby was not just a brother, he was a son, my mom's only son. as a matter of fact. Bobby, did grow up in a way that was, as we've seen, he had, a background with many affiliations, but Bobby realized that his life, that he went through those things because it was an avenue to minister and change the lives of young people in the city of Jackson. He was the person that felt like Jackson could be not the place that we see today. He felt like Jackson had a lot of hope, and he wanted to bind together with members of the community, older members, people with influence, like Mr. Edwards here, to help to change the community. He was a peacemaker. He was a trailblazer. He was an author. If there were children that were in the community that had problems reading, he would go into the schools and read to those children. He fed the less fortunate. He would make care packages through his organization, the Better Man Society, and take those care packages in the middle of the night to the less fortunate, socks, underwear, toiletries. This is who Bobby was. Bobby was never a threat to anyone. He wanted to make peace. And a simple conversation was all that it would have taken. I want to say that his loss in our church, in our home, my mother has been so sad that you've never seen her in public because she cannot stand to see that we heard all different types of things and speculation about the circumstances surrounding this case that were true and some were not very true. But as a family, we had to stand and follow the process and understand that in order for justice to be served, that we had to be quiet and let the justice system take its course. So we trusted in the process of the justice system, only to sit through 2 court cases where we saw my brother's autopsy body splayed across the screen, and how horrible and traumatic that was for my family. People sending pictures to my mom, but we also realized that that is also part of this process. Not being able to have my brother at Thanksgiving eating up all the turkey and sweet potato pie is hard. Not having my brother here to publish the books that he had written and was getting ready to write. Not having my brother to build the projects and things that he had talked to my mom, who was his best friend, by the way, about, is hard for us, but we are finding a way. I want to thank, though, the justice process. And when I say that, I appreciate Your Honor for hearing the case. I appreciate the prosecution team from the DA's office. I appreciate the DA's office for walking through this process with us. It was hard, but we were informed and they helped us to understand the parts that it was hard to navigate through. So I appreciate that. And now I want to briefly address Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, I wasn't raised to be negative. So I'm not gonna say anything disparaging to you, sir. What I will say is that my mom wanted me to pass along that she is praying for you. I can't say on behalf of everyone in my family that we have forgiven you. We are trying to forgive you because we believe in order to see my brother again, we have to do that. And so it is our choice to try to move towards that. I would like to say, sir, that it was hard seeing all the smoke and the mirrors. I heard you say a lot of things, even to the fact of trying to malign my brother's honor by bringing up his affiliations. And guess what? We were also proud of those because it made him the man that he was. We were proud of those as well because he was a changed man. And he had tremendous influence, just like you, sir. You have influence. And I guess I would have hoped that with that God-given influence that you have, that you would have gotten and connected with Bobby to make Jackson a better place. You see, I don't think that you started out like the way that you are. I don't think that. I know members of your family and they are wonderful individuals. So I know that this person that you present is not how you started. And my hope for you is that you would take this opportunity to do something positive with what you have until we all go to see God. because I know you know him. I also want to say that I heard you talk about truth, and I heard you say that Bobby, that y'all didn't have beef. Well, even a half-truth is a lie, okay? No, Bobby didn't have beef with you, but I am aware that you were jealous of him for so many reasons that I won't go into. But even in that, and Bobby was told that, even in that, Bobby was not worried. Bobby was not afraid because he felt like men could sit down and have a conversation and not in a situation in violence like children. So I'm going to leave you with this. I heard you bring up a story or compare yourself in some ways to Jesus, okay? And how Jesus was being prosecuted. So let me also end my statement with this story in the Bible. There was a character named Lucifer in heaven. Lucifer was once one of the most beautiful angels. And Lucifer had a bunch of influence. So much so, he was able to convince a third of the angels that he was right and better than God. And it caused a third of the angels in heaven to be cast out of heaven with him because of his influence and his slick tongue. I know that you, sir, like Lucifer, have that type of influence, and you use that slick tongue to influence people in the community of your innocence, which we know that that's not the truth. I know that as Bobby's sister. But you almost succeeded in convincing everyone of your innocence, like the third of those angels. But thank God that those 12 that were sitting over there, that they saw right through it. God bless you.
Edwards, do you have anyone who likes to speak over the past? Just for the record, the court did receive 2 letters on your behalf, speaking in regard to sentencing in this matter. They made a part of the record. If you want to come forward now.
Good evening, Your Honor. You know, I appreciate Ms. Weaver's impact statement. And I pray that her family finds the closure that it needs, even in the midst of her inaccurate assessment of me and the whole circumstances surrounding this. I'm not sure where she's getting her information from, but I pray that she finds the closure she needs. She talked a lot about responsibilities as believers and things like that. And we all do have a responsibility as a believer, and I am a believer. That's why I stand here today, still as I did on a couple of days ago, believing that at the end of this, God will see me through. And so I'm not worried about accusations. I'm not worried about false narratives. I'm not worried about what theory she has. As I said earlier, I know the truth. And this isn't the first time that I've stood in a courtroom and been falsely accused of something that had its case overturned. And so I trust the justice system. I trust in you. And the justice system made its decision. Now my job is to go back and find the errors where the justice system was wrong. So we stand on those promises, Your Honor. I appreciate you for your diligence, and I appreciate the prosecution for presenting their case. At the end of the day, I just pray and continue to pray that her family finds the true closure that they need. Find
All right, Mr. Edwards and Ms. Williams, please go to the podium for sentencing. All right, before the court this afternoon is the matter of sentencing, the matter of State of City versus Freeman Edwards. Mr. Edwards, let me just say to both you and to the family, this matter, there are no winners. The only thing the court heard this afternoon and during the proceedings was that there were two individuals who had potentially do great things in this community. The court knows that being in trial is a hard place to be, but I also know that you're a very intelligent person, and this was a talent lost. You know, I observed that you had a great mind and the potential to have done anything that you wanted to. Like I said, it's a skill and a gift. A person may have an excellent oratorical gift, but it becomes a skill when it's trained. And unfortunately, you didn't choose that path that would allow you to abuse what apparently was a gift. And it is a gift to communicate and to persuade people. And had you been trained, you probably could have been an extremely skillful person. And I noticed that. But that's not the case. If the jury found that on a particular afternoon in 2022, an impulsive decision was made to take the life of another individual, the court has sat through 2 trials in this matter, and it still seems like someone could have made another choice, other than to throw away all that you were doing, whether it was good or bad, positive or negative, still it wasn't happy. And it's a shame that you wasted the opportunity that sometimes this community needs for people to do things. The jury has found you guilty of murder by deliberate design, which is first-degree murder. There are no options as to the sentence for that. The court does have to sentence you to life in count 1. In count 2, you were found to be a convicted felon in possession of a firearm, a sentence which carries a penalty of up to 10 years. The court is going to sentence you to that 10 years and run it concurrent with the sentence in count 1. I wish you well on the next phase of this. It's tragic to be at that season of life where you are having to face such a severe penalty as to have to spend those years in this custody in the Department of Corrections. But once again, there were no winners today. This court and no one here takes any pleasure in seeing that you had to be sentenced in this manner and having been found guilty. So I wish you well. I pray you Godspeed. The sentence of this court in count 1 is life in custody of the Department of Corrections, and in count 2, 10 years in custody of the Department of Corrections. Both sentences will run concurrent. The defendant will be given credit for time served. Ms. Mullen asked if you would take an opportunity after the defendant is released to the Sheriff's Department to go over with him his timetable for peace. Thank you. May be excused. This concludes the matter of sentencing matter of State of City versus William Edwards. I do have other matters set on the docket, and I will take a recess so that we can begin those matters. Thank you.
All right.
Y'all may be seated.
And so there we have it. We heard from the victim's sister, Bobby. Bobby's sister spoke first. She gave her victim impact statement, and she had some very, very poignant things to say. She said that her brother Bobby was a peacemaker, that he was a trailblazer, that he would go to schools and read to the children. She said that he wasn't a threat to anyone. She also said that during the course of this, in the first trial and the second trial, and that she trusted in the justice system. She then addressed William Edwards and said to him that she was not going to say anything disparaging towards him, that her mother was praying for him, and that her entire family had forgiven him. So the reason why they forgive him is because they fully believe that in order for them to see Bobby again one day in heaven, that they would need to forgive William Edwards. She said that he had influence, that William Polo Edwards had influence, and that she hoped that he would have used his life for the betterment of the world around him with the influence that he had. She said that she also knew his family and knew that William Edwards had a wonderful family. And she said that she would hope that he would take this to be able to do something positive, maybe hopefully turn around and do something positive with this sentencing that happened here. Her end statement, in Williams, in his closing arguments and also in his opening statement, he mentioned Jesus a lot and spoke about how people didn't like the truth and that Jesus spoke the truth, and that is why, even though he spoke the truth, people crucified him. He was crucified. Well, she ended her statement, Bobby's sister ended her statement with a story from the Bible as well. She told the story of Lucifer, said that he had influence in heaven, enough of influence in heaven to convince a third of the angels in heaven to believe that he was better than God, and look at how he used the influence that he had. But in the end, she did say that her and her family did forgive William Polo Edwards for killing Bobby. Then William Polo came to the stand himself, and he talked about responsibility as a leader, that he did believe that someone that had influence as a leader in their community did have a responsibility as a leader, but he said that God would see him through that. He believed God would see him through. He said that he was not worried about what the sister said because he knows the truth. He also then thanked the judge for her diligence in the cases, the trials that she saw over. And then Judge Peterson got to speak before she sentenced him, and she said that he had a great mind, that he had great potential, and that unfortunately he did not choose the right path and did not use that mind or his potential for the betterment of society and for good. In the end, William Polo Edwards was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder of Bobby Davis. Then he was sentenced to 10 years for the charge of a felon in possession of a weapon, and both of those charges are going to run concurrently or will run at the same time. So there we have it. That is the sentencing for William Polo Edwards. Whether or not he will file an appeal on this is yet to be seen. Of course, we will be following it and letting you know. Tune in tonight for our newscast to hear more from outside the courtroom after the sentencing happened, possibly more from the family, from the attorneys there, possibly from the DA of Hinds County, Jody Owens himself. We know that he is there. But tune in tonight for our newscast. Tomorrow, we will be back and we'll be covering some of the pretrial hearings for Victoria Cox. Victoria Cox is the woman that was with David. His name was Daniel, the man who abducted the two children from Louisiana, brought them over to Mississippi after killing their mother. And then ultimately one of the little children did die here in Jackson. We'll be covering those pretrial hearings tomorrow. Again, that's going to be at 1:00 tomorrow. I hope you tune in for that. But we do have the sentencing now for William Polo Edwards, life in prison for the murder, first-degree murder, and 10 years in prison for a felon in possession of a weapon, and those sentences will run concurrently. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you again tomorrow. Be safe out there.